Hey everybody, welcome to the Mud Jug One channel. We have a special video planned for you guys today. A lot of you might have seen an old video that I've done in the past. It was a book review by an amazing doctor, Dr. Brad Radu, who wrote this book, How Smokeless Tobacco Can Save Your Life. A couple quick things regarding Dr. Radu. He has actually initially wrote this book in order to save people's lives. He's been on a mission to convert people from smoking to using smokeless tobacco products. Now it's things have kind of evolved since the release of the book. Now he's also focusing also on educating people on the risks associated or lack thereof with smokeless tobacco use. So Dr. Radu has been on a mission for the last 20 years to educate and save lives, educate people and save lives. And he had a tough going early on. I mean, he was criticized, highly criticized by his peers and by many different associations. And now finally he's starting to get some recognition for all the research and all the studies and all the scientific evidence that he has brought to the table. He's finally getting the credit that he deserves. So without further ado, we're going to bring Dr. Radu in here. We're going to get set up and we'll get started with an interview. So, Dr. Radu, I'd like to welcome you to the Mud Jug headquarters. I would also like to thank you for making the time to come down. It really means a lot to us. We've been having some personal discussions in the last couple of days, and I've just really been inspired by you and really been impressed with your knowledge and your passion for this, touchy subject. So, I'd like you first off to maybe give the viewers, a little bit of background. And kind of what you stand for and what you've been able to accomplish.
Darcy, it's a pleasure to be here. I'm a professor of medicine at the University of Louisville, and I've spent the past 20 years conducting research on smokeless tobacco and its health effects. And what I've come to find out is that your customers are misinformed. They're misinformed by a medical establishment, by anti-tobacco zealots about the relative safety and health effects of smokeless tobacco use. And that's why I accepted your invitation to come here and actually clear up some of this misconceptions.
Sure. Well, again, I appreciate you coming down. So, Dr. Radu, what would you say to people who say that you are completely wrong and that dipping and chewing of smokeless tobacco products causes cancer? Okay.
Darcy, these aren't my beliefs. These are the facts. I've been studying these issues for 20 years, and the evidence is clear. Smokeless tobacco use is not associated with any health risks that are significant.
So, doctor, can you back that statement up with some scientific facts, some numbers, something that, because a lot of viewers of this video, I want them to hear the numbers and the statistics and what you've discovered in the last 20 years that substantiates that claim.
Well, a lot of anti-tobacco zealots have stated for years and years that smokeless tobacco has excess risks, for example, for mouth cancer.
Right.
And what they've done is they've done something called cherry picking. They've cherry picked evidence out of various studies that suggest that smokeless tobacco users have higher risks.
Right.
But if you look at all of the epidemiologic evidence, as I have, it shows that the mouth cancer risks for smokeless tobacco use are not highly elevated. In fact, they can't be distinguished from non-users of tobacco.
So, Dr. Radu, I receive many comments on videos, questions via email, questions via all the social media outlets, Twitter, etc., where people are just really concerned people who use smokeless tobacco are really concerned. They have been brainwashed by society into thinking that the risks with using smokeless tobacco products are just outrageous. And I want to ask you, why do you think that society has this tainted perception about smokeless tobacco? Why is it that everybody thinks that when you grab that can of dip and you put a dip in, everyone who, especially non-users, they just think that you are automatically asking to get mouth cancer and that you basically are committing suicide? So why do you think society believes that?
Well, since the early 1980s, there's been a misinformation campaign conducted by major health organizations, federal government, state government officials, and their whole goal is to set all tobacco products as being equally evil and equally dangerous. And that simply has no basis in scientific reality. In fact, smokeless tobacco use has been documented to be 98% safer than smoking. And they are ignoring this fact because these organizations have one goal: a tobacco-free society. That's basically tobacco prohibition. And so they have to cast all tobacco products in the same light in order to accomplish those goals.
Right.
What I'm trying to do is give smokers an option and inform smokeless tobacco users, chewers and dippers, that they in fact have been grossly misinformed about all of these health effects.
So how many different, how many different articles, periodicals, reports have you done over the years that show the evidence that you've been able to obtain with your studies and your research?
I've been conducting research for about 20 years, and I've published over 40 papers, scientific studies, supporting the idea that there's safer tobacco products. I am an oral pathologist, and an oral pathologist is an expert with diseases of the mouth, not cavities or gum disease, but that includes oral cancer. I found out 20 years ago that I was misinformed about the cancer risks of chew and dip. And so what I did is re-educated myself and decided to basically commit my career to educating smokeless tobacco users and smokers about these risks so that they have educated and informed options.
So, Doctor, that being said, what are the leading causes of oral and or mouth cancer?
Darcy, mouth cancer is an exquisitely rare disease. It turns out that there are about 10,000 cases among the 300 million population of the United States every year.
Wow.
In fact, it's so rare that if every case was diagnosed by a dentist would see one case of mouth cancer, maybe 2 cases of mouth cancer in his entire career. So it's a rare disease, that's for starters. Now, what causes mouth cancer? That's well established. We know that smoking is the #1 driver of mouth cancer.
Okay.
The #2 driver is heavy alcohol use. And if you combine those two, you get an even higher risk. And the third cause that's not well documented right now is human papillomavirus. It's a sexually transmitted virus that also drives some mouth cancer cases.
Okay.
Once these 3 causes are established, now we're down to only a few % of mouth cancer that is actually caused by anything else.
Right, and there is cases of people, there's cases where people do get mouth cancer that do not use any tobacco products, that don't drink, that don't have HPV, but they just happen to get it, correct? Is there?
That's exactly right. And in fact, the epidemiologic research shows that smokeless tobacco users do not have elevated risks over non-users of tobacco for mouth cancer. Chewers and dippers don't have excess risk. In epidemiologic studies conducted over the last 50 years, this is what all the evidence shows. This is the evidence that anti-tobacco zealots are ignoring and misinforming the public about.
Right. Well, that's great news for me, and that's great news for a lot of people, who are going to see this video, because, again, everybody has that in the back of their mind because of what society has put out there, what they've been brainwashed into thinking. So.
And it's brainwashing that I had as an expert in this area.
Right.
It's brainwashing across all of the medical professions. Virtually every health professional thinks it, as well as most dippers and chewers.
Yeah.
And it's absolutely incredible that this correct and factual information is not more widely available.
Right.
This isn't just my opinion. This is the scientific facts. I'm here to present truthful and accurate information, not to sort of give light to any of the risks of using these products.
Sure. In your book, you state that, I just want to back up a little bit to the leading causes of mouth cancer that you did mention, but in your book it states that 90% of mouth cancer is caused from cigarette smoking. 90%, I mean, that's a major majority here. So why is smoking the number one cause of mouth cancer?
Darcy, when you burn tobacco, you create 3,000 toxic chemicals. And when you're puffing on that smoke, you're distributing those chemicals through your entire airway. So that every place that smoke comes in contact with is at risk over a career of smoking from developing cancer.
Okay.
And then those smoke contaminants are getting into your circulation and going to all your organs.
Okay.
That's why smoking is so dangerous.
Right.
Smokeless tobacco, on the other hand, you put it in your lip. And you're getting that tobacco satisfaction and nicotine, but you're not getting all of those other toxic agents that cause the problems.
Right.
It's a no-brainer, and it makes common sense.
Yeah.
And people who are driving this equally dangerous theory, they're simply wrong.
So, doctor, you mentioned nicotine, the word nicotine, okay? And you just mentioned some chemicals, the 3,000 plus chemicals, toxic chemicals that are in cigarette smoke. Can you talk about nicotine? Because everybody thinks nicotine is such a terrible drug, and then we'll go into some of the chemicals that are in smokeless tobacco products.
Well, one of the big misconceptions, Darcy, is that nicotine is the cause of the cancers, heart disease, and emphysema that smokers suffer from.
Right.
That is patently untrue. Nicotine causes no disease related to smoking or smokeless tobacco use. Nicotine's addictive, no question about that. But nicotine can be used about as safely as caffeine. Of course, caffeine's available in cola drinks, coffee, and tea.
Sure.
Nicotine can be used in just as safe a manner. We just need to deliver it in a smoke-free delivery system.
There you go. So as far as the chemicals that are in smokeless tobacco products, I get so many people asking me about all these carcinogens and radioactive chemicals that are supposedly in smokeless tobacco products. And granted, there's 3,000 plus in cigarette smoke. There's 28, 30, or what have you in smokeless tobacco products. Can you talk about those chemicals that are found in smokeless tobacco products to kind of give the viewers an idea as to what we're talking about here, as far as how high content they are and what they are potentially?
Here's the lowdown on those chemicals. There are chemical contaminants in virtually everything we consume. All the foods, there are actually 28 potential carcinogens in smokeless tobacco. But what the zealots don't tell you is that these contaminants are in such low concentrations that they're virtually meaningless for any human disease.
Oh,
We can list them. For example, there's formaldehyde.
Uh-huh.
And you just, before we talked, had an apple. There's
Yeah.
formaldehyde in apples. But
Right.
nobody talks about that. And in fact, these zealots talk about these chemicals almost in a way that leads people to believe that the manufacturers add these products.
Right, right.
These are natural contaminants in virtually any product we consume at minuscule concentrations.
Okay. And
For example, there are 28 carcinogens in chew and dip. There are 21 carcinogens proven to be in coffee.
Oh.
Yeah, again,
Okay.
at the same minuscule concentrations.
Right.
While we have those cancer-causing agents in coffee, no one is calling for huge regulation of coffee beans.
Right.
Okay, so what we need to do is take a reasonable, rational approach.
Sure.
And once you understand, then you start ignoring these kind of exaggerated complaints.
Reasonable, rational approach. I like that.
You know, comparing nicotine to caffeine is one of my favorite subjects because I happen to be devoted to the latter.
That
And-
being coffee.
Coffee.
Okay.
So it turns out that nicotine and caffeine do a lot of very positive things for humans.
Sure.
They
Makes-
provide a sense of relief,
Yeah.
a sense of relaxation. They provide a lot of the same effects as positive agents for human consumption.
Sure.
And so it's all about the delivery system.
Right.
We consume coffee in a water-based delivery system that has never been shown to have any health effects.
Right.
That's the same for chew and dip.
Right. Got it.
And so now, if we can get away from the smoke, we can really help people lead longer and healthier lives.
Yeah, absolutely. So, doctor, I have a question for you regarding today's media. We touched on how people have been brainwashed. Society's kind of been have been brainwashed regarding smokeless tobacco use. The media likes to blow that out of proportion, and recently, we've had the unfortunate passing of Tony Gwynn. We've also had Curt Schilling come out and state that he was treated for mouth cancer or some type of cancer. He mentioned that he was an avid user of smokeless tobacco products throughout his career. Can you, shed a little bit of light on that? I know it's kind of a touchy subject, but we don't want to disrespect anybody on that. But I know a lot of viewers of this video are going to want to. They're gonna use those examples to try and discredit what we're discussing here.
I've worked in a cancer center for 30 years, and I've taken care of a lot of cancer patients over my career. I'm very sympathetic to the plight of cancer patients, and I offer my condolences to Tony Gwynn's family
Sure.
and to Curt Schilling and his family. Tony Gwynn believed that smokeless tobacco led to his mouth cancer. But he really didn't have mouth cancer. He had a cancer of his salivary gland.
Sure. Okay.
And the scientific evidence shows that salivary gland cancer has no relationship with tobacco use, either smoking or smokeless tobacco. With respect to Curt Schilling, none of his doctors have validated his claim that he has a mouth cancer caused by smokeless tobacco.
Right.
When we look at smokeless tobacco, we have to take in all risk factors.
Sure.
Smoking, drinking, human papillomavirus. I have discussed both the Schilling and the Gwynn cases on my blog, Raw Dude Tobacco Truth. Go to the blog, type in Schilling and Gwynn on in the search engine,
Sure.
and you can read a lot more about those particular
And
cases.
what's the blog? What's the name of the blog?
Raw Dude Tobacco Truth.
So, doctor, there's a lot of smokeless tobacco consumers in Sweden because smokeless tobacco kind of originated from there.
That's correct.
And you visited Sweden. You've been there. You've done studies over there. Can you give the viewers a kind of an idea the difference between snus versus smokeless tobacco?
I conducted a lot of research in Sweden. In fact, I published the first evidence that Swedish snus is saving lives among Swedish men, because Swedish men use snus rather than smoke.
Right.
I published a whole series of studies documenting that. But when it comes to comparing snus with American dip products,
Right.
the comparison really isn't accurate, because all American and Swedish products today have very, very low levels of contaminants.
Okay.
There is no meaningful difference between the contaminant levels in Sweden and in American moist snuff products
Right.
with respect to their impact on human health.
Okay.
So I tell my smoking patients to switch to any product that satisfies them and is pleasurable to use. If it's Swedish, fine. If it's American, fine. But it's smoke-free.
Sure. So they use a different process to cure that tobacco in the snus versus American.
Swedish snus has a process akin to pasteurizing,
Okay.
where they heat the tobacco up and it has a different taste, it has a different flavor. American dip products are fire cured,
Sure.
which introduces a few other smoking contaminants,
Right.
and they're also fermented, which introduces a few more contaminants,
But on very low levels.
but on tiny, tiny levels, exactly.
Got it.
So there's no meaningful differences for health.
So, Dr. Radu, you've spent, like you said, you've spent some time in Sweden, and the cancer rates, especially mouth cancer rates, are they very low in Sweden?
Well, mouth cancer rates are low, and lung cancer rates among Swedish men who use large quantities of snus are among the lowest in the entire developed world.
Wow. Okay. All right. And you also mentioned before that the Swedes, that use snus and smokeless tobacco products, they're very proud of it. They're very proud of using that. It's not such a taboo product to use over there. Is that correct? Or
Snus is part of Swedish culture. It's
Right.
well accepted. It's even accepted more commonly among women now in
Right.
Sweden. There's a lot of women using snus. The Swedish experience is what we can transmit to the United States, because
Right.
we have a core base of smokeless users here in the US. So it's a great base on which to develop the concept of alternative smoke-free tobacco. My message to smokeless tobacco users in the United States is get educated, be informed, and be proud.
Dr. Radu, can you talk about some of the statistics? Because most of our viewers, they want information, and a lot of them really probably aren't into the statistics and the numbers, etc. But some people are going to want to hear that.
I go over a lot of these numbers on my blog and in my book, but let me give you one good example of how this translates into numbers that people can use.
Okay.
In the United States, out of 100,000 people walking around, there'll be about 6 cases of mouth cancer every year. That's in non-users of tobacco, non-drinkers, perfectly clean livers.
Right.
So now let's take a very uncommon product, powdered dry snuff,
Okay.
which has been used by women in the South since the Civil War. Let's take that product, and a 1981 New England Journal of Medicine study suggested that users of that product have a 4-fold increase in risk.
Okay.
So instead of 6 cases of cancer, there's 25 or 26 cases of mouth cancer every year in users of those products.
Mm-hmm.
And let's take that death rate, okay? Let's say that about a 50% death rate, 12 of those people die from that mouth cancer. Okay, now let's compare that to another American addiction,
Sure.
automobile use.
Oh.
The National Highway Traffic Safety Administration tells us that somewhere around 10 or 12 people out of every 100,000 automobile users die every year in an automobile accident.
Wow.
Okay? So that's a risk that we all accept when we travel around in our cars.
Sure, sure.
And I'm not trying to explain away that mouth cancer risk, but I need to put it in perspective so that your customers understand
Sure.
that it's not a death sentence.
Yeah, yeah. That,
Okay, now I need to make another clarification.
Sure.
That was in powdered dry snuff. Okay?
Right.
The risks in dippers and chewers is down around 6. It's no different than the risk in non-users.
Of the guy walking around that doesn't drink and
Exactly.
doesn't use tobacco products and doesn't have HPV.
Exactly. Dip and chew aren't a vaccination against mouth cancer,
Right, right.
but they don't elevate the risks at all. One other thing about that 1981 New England Journal of Medicine study. Investigators misapplied that risk to all dip and chew products.
Right, when the study was done, actually done on the powdered
Powdered dry snuff.
dry snuff, okay.
Press reports then and forever after have extended that risk to all tobacco products. This is entirely false. Dip and chew products do not have those elevated risks. I've proven that in a 2002 published research article, and it's been confirmed ever since by other reviews that aren't tainted
Right.
by bias.
And you think that that original study on the powdered dry snuff was somewhat of the catalyst that started to spread throughout this country regarding smokeless tobacco use?
That's entirely correct. All of the misinformation that all of us have is based on 1981 and the release of that study.
Wow. One study, huh?
One study.
Wow. So, doctor, I want to ask you a question. I want to bring up the L word. And what I mean by that is the infamous word leukoplakia. Okay, that's a scary sounding word. You talk about it in your book. But can you explain to our viewers what leukoplakia is and what they need to or not need to be concerned with when it comes to leukoplakia? Obviously, leukoplakia is very common among smokeless tobacco dippers and chewers, smokeless tobacco consumers. So can you talk about that briefly?
If you're a dipper or chewer watching this program, you've got a leukoplakia. It stands for white plaque. And all it represents is kind of a callus.
Like a callus on your hand?
Like a callus on your hand. There's a little extra keratin, we call that,
Okay.
at the surface, because smokeless tobacco is a little bit of an irritant.
Sure, sure.
So this white plaque is simply an irritation and a response to that irritation. Now, people claim that it's a precancerous lesion.
Right.
That is absolutely false. The white plaque related to smokeless tobacco is not precancerous. In fact, switch sides and the white plaque disappears in about
Right.
2 or 3 weeks. It's reversible.
Right. Yeah,
Okay.
I mean, just me personally, I usually side dip, and I tend to get some white plaque going on the inside of my cheek and lip. And if I switch, and in a couple days even, it seems to go away. The mouth seems to heal to a certain extent or regenerate fairly quickly, at least when it comes to leukoplakia. So,
Exactly.
yeah.
So the bottom line, go to your dentist
Right.
every year, get an exam.
Right.
But leukoplakia is not an issue.
Sure. Okay. Thank you. Another issue, doctor, that I hear that's a concern among our customers and probably a concern for people watching this video is gum recession from the use of dip. Chew not so much, but dip, American dip products. Gum recession. definitely occurs with using smokeless tobacco products. And I have some gum recession from the 20 plus years that I've been a user. Is that something that someone who dips regularly should be concerned with? I mean, obviously they need to visit their dentist on a regular basis.
Gum recession, again, is one of those responses to irritation.
Right.
The gum starts pulling back from the tooth in the areas where you use your dip. But gum recession is not gum disease.
Right.
Okay, so dippers and chewers need to practice good mouth cleaning, and they need to see their dentist. But if basically gum disease is related to how you clean your mouth.
Right.
Studies have shown that smokeless tobacco users do not have any more gum disease than non-users.
Right. Their gums may recede more, but gum recession is completely different from gum disease.
Exactly.
Sure. Okay.
Exactly.
Well, I mean, I've been dipping for 20 plus years, and like I said, my gums are receding, but my teeth haven't fallen out. I don't have any cavities. I mean, I brush my teeth regularly, and I go see my dentist regularly. That's it.
Exactly.
Okay, good. So, doctor, let's talk about a subject that is a real thorn in a dipper's side that seems to really bother a lot of our customers and a lot of smokeless tobacco consumers, is the infamous warning labels that you see on these cans. And I don't know if do you want me to read these to you? I'm sure you're very familiar with these,
Yes.
but warning, this product can cause gum disease and tooth loss. Well, I haven't suffered from that yet. Warning, smokeless tobacco is addictive. Well, yeah, that is true. That's true. This product can cause mouth cancer. Well, I mean, 20 plus years, I haven't gotten mouth cancer yet. I don't plan on it anytime soon. And last but not least, warning, this product is not a safe alternative to cigarettes. Wow, that's a pretty bold statement. Do you care to talk about the warning labels to a certain extent, doctor?
I've discussed these warning labels in my book and on my Raw Do Tobacco Truth blog. 3 of the 4 warning labels simply have no scientific basis.
Right.
Let's take them one at a time.
Sure.
This product can cause mouth cancer. It's absolutely untrue with respect to modern dip and chew products.
Right.
This product has no scientific basis. In fact, Swedish Match has made a recent application to the FDA about the warnings, and they've requested that this warning be removed from Swedish snus products sold in the United States.
Wow.
In fact, that warning should be removed from all dip and chew products sold in the United States.
Just based on the fact that it's wrong.
Based on the fact that there's no scientific evidence to back it up.
Okay. Besides the one that says smokeless tobacco is addictive.
Well, let's take number 2. This product causes gum disease and tooth loss. Okay. Again, no scientific evidence to back this up.
Right.
Okay. None at all. And Swedish Match's application to the FDA has suggested that this warning be removed from their products. Should be removed from all smokeless products.
Right.
Number 3, this product is not a safe alternative to cigarettes. This one is ludicrous.
Yeah.
Name a safe activity. There is no safe human activity.
Is sleeping safe? I mean,
No, people die in their sleep all the time.
yeah, that's right. Yeah, you're right.
No, there's no safe activity.
Yeah.
So for the federal government to have set up an absolute standard as safe on a product and then deny that it's safer, this is an absolutely ludicrous warning.
Right.
Swedish Match has applied to change this warning from this is not a safe alternative to something like this. While no tobacco product is safe, this product is safer than cigarettes.
Right.
And finally, the addictive warning. The addictive warning is reasonable and will probably remain on the products.
Sure.
People need to know that smokeless tobacco and cigarettes are addictive.
Sure.
I maybe should have known that coffee's addictive.
Right.
Maybe that warning should be on coffee.
Yeah, probably should.
But it's not inaccurate as the other three warnings are.
So then, doctor, why the warning labels? Why do we have these giant warning labels that have to be, what is it? I forgot what the law is. FDA's made it 1/3 of the area that needs to be covered with a warning label. Also in their mailers and posters, etc., have to have the warning label. Why the warning label?
Well, I can tell you the warning labels came about 5 years after that 1981 New England Journal of Medicine study. Anti-tobacco zealots were afraid that smokers might switch to smokeless tobacco. So they invented these warnings in order to dissuade smokers from switching.
Really?
Absolutely. These were mandated warnings by U.S. congressional legislation.
So that was back in, 5 years
That
after
was back
81?
in 1986.
Okay. Now we haven't seen the to this extreme. We didn't see these warning labels to this extreme until recently, though.
Oh, okay.
They're the size of them, and it has obviously increased the size of the label, and where it goes, where it's put on the product, has increased in the last couple of years. What, 4 or 5 years?
With passage of the 2009 Tobacco Act giving the FDA regulatory authority over these products, that's at the point when the warning labels increased in size.
Gotcha.
And making them bigger doesn't make them any more accurate
Or effective.
or effective.
So, doctor, there's a lot of people out there that smoke cigarettes and use smokeless tobacco products. I think you refer to them in your book as dual users. Is there something that you would like to say to those people? Is there something that we can tell them regarding smoking and using smokeless tobacco products? I mean, what would you like to see happen with obviously you would prefer to see all smokers, quit smoking cigarettes, switch to smokeless if they need to. Dual users. Can you talk about dual users a little bit who do both?
That's a great question. Research shows that as many as 30 to 50% of smokeless tobacco users also smoke. My message to dual users, to your customers who might be using both, is twofold. One's good and one's bad.
Right.
The bad thing is, as long as you're smoking cigarettes every day, you're putting yourself at risk.
Right.
At risk for those heart diseases and strokes, cancers, emphysema. The good news is that it's obvious. Smokeless tobacco and cigarettes both work for you.
Right.
So now what you need to do with this information is make the switch.
Right.
And move over to all smoke-free tobacco.
Right.
Darcy, you might ask, why aren't other health professionals out there beating this drum along with you?
Yeah.
And why aren't the tobacco companies advertising that chew and dip are safer than smoking?
Yeah. Actually, that is something that I wondered.
Well,
Glad you brought it up.
Well, it's really strange because those health professionals have been brainwashed just like I was about the relative risks of dip and chew versus smoking. And they're just unwilling to break out of the mold
Right.
and look at the facts and start talking to their patients and to the rest of America
Right.
about these options.
Right. Okay.
And then finally, the tobacco industry is prohibited from talking about this subject. They are prohibited by the FDA from making any statement
Right.
with respect to medical issues surrounding tobacco use. So you won't see others talking about this.
Right. Right.
Yet it has the potential to save so many lives.
Yes.
We're obligated to send this message out.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's why you're here. It's not about, for us, it's not about selling more mud jugs. It's not about It's about educating people and saving lives. This is a touchy subject for me personally, and for everyone that works at Mud Jug, because everyone that works here is a dipper, you know. And we hear it from friends and family members about how we all are users of smokeless tobacco products, and I mean that's our business, but at the same time that's our lives too. That's our health that we're talking about. And I just see so many people asking me questions and sending me emails that because they're so concerned, they hear it from their parents and or their loved ones about, oh, they're gonna get cancer, mouth cancer from using this product, and it really hits home with me, and that's why you are here. I want to educate people. We want to educate people, and we want to save lives in the long run. It's not about anything else other than that. So again, I want to thank you for coming out.
Well, I very much appreciate the invitation.